I was a big Kiss fan growing up, and I could introduce Kiss on the Monsters of Rock festivals in Germany. It was like 1989. Somebody called me, like the promoter, and he said, "Hey, I know you're a big Kiss fan. Would you like to introduce Kiss?" And I thought, "Oh my God, yes!" So I flew over. I was just doing something in LA, and I flew over to Germany. And that was the first time that I met Gene Simmons, and he was very nice. And then I announced Kiss, and it was like, wow. And then a couple of months later, I thought I would like to write him maybe a thank you note or a letter. And I knew Gene Simmons. His birthday was the same day my dad's birthday was. And then I called my manager and I said, well, I would like to write him a birthday card. And my manager said, hey, don't be silly. It's, they don't have any time for that. And I thought, yeah, but I thought maybe doing something together, maybe recording a Kiss song or maybe writing a song together. And he said, okay, I don't think it will work out, but, dream on, So a couple of months later, I was living in Manhattan, and my manager, Alex Grobe, at the time, he called me. He said, Doro, get out of bed. There's somebody who wants to meet you. Come to this hotel, Parker Meridian Hotel, 57th Street. And I said, who is it? He said, well, it's a surprise. And I thought it's maybe some friends from Germany or some family. And I went there. I didn't take a shower. I just put some clothes on, no makeup, which, it was just my normal self. And I met my manager outside the hotel, and I asked him, so, please tell me who it is. And he said, Gene Simmons. I said, what? You didn't tell me? And I'm not made up. And I was getting so nervous, and I walked 3 times around the block. And it's a big ass block, and it's really, and then after 3 times, Alex said, hey, are you ready? Gene's waiting. I said, yeah, I'm ready. And I walked into the lobby, and Gene Simmons was sitting there. He was very, very nice, very polite, and he said, so I heard you want to do a new album. And I said, yeah, and I would like to do maybe something together. And he said, okay, let's try it, if we do one song together. If it doesn't work out, nobody will know. And, it was just like having fun. And that's how we started. And we started in New York, and then we recorded in LA, and then we produced the whole album, wrote many songs for it, which he now is, I will meet him in a couple of weeks. He will give away the vault, all his songs he'd ever done. And many songs are actually on our album. It was 1990. It was just called Doro. And the coolest thing was to be friends with Gene Simmons. He was definitely, he was great, and I learned a lot because he had a great way of showing you things. And I know he was a school teacher before, and he was always very interested in, that you would learn something. And I think I wrote my first blues back in the day, and I said, hey Gene, check this song out. He said, well, do you know about blues people? And do you know, did you ever see a concert? Did you listen to blues records? And I said, yeah, here and there a little bit. He said, no, let's do it. And then we walked into a little tiny club. Dr. John was playing, and he said, okay, Doro, I want you to know everything about blues and, and musicians and singers. And then, and then the next day he had a stack full of records. He said, okay, now you listen to every single one of them, and then you can tell me about, singing a blues song. And I thought, wow, so very cool. Yeah.